Hello, students of science. So I've returned all of the rubrics that were turned in. I think there was only there was only one group that had it attached to the person, but it wasn't submitted, so I couldn't leave feedback, which if you are that person, then go ahead and make sure that you're doing that. Only a couple missing, and I'll go ahead and talk to those people on Monday. But those of you who did turn it in, this was a wonderful opportunity for you. I took time out of my Saturday to go through and give you feedback about what needs to be accomplished in order for you to achieve the 7 on your rubrics. Now, there were 2 different file formats that were turned in. One of them was a Google Doc. If you turn this in on the Google Doc format, then all of your comments will just be in your Google Doc. So you open it up, then on the right-hand side, you'll see all of my suggestions, and then go ahead and follow those suggestions as you go forward on your project. Now, for those of you who are wondering about the grades, it was made clear in the introduction video. These are learning habit grades that I'm going to put in for your first submission. The reason is the purpose of this first submission is to give you that feedback needed to be set up for success before your final submission. So I didn't want to leave you in the dark, so that when you had that final submission, you would receive grades that were lower than expected and you wouldn't understand why. So the purpose of this was for me to give you that feedback. So the Saturday time is up. All of your feedback has been given and your learning habit scores have been recorded. Now, the learning habit scores for this rubric will be initiative, how much effort you're putting into it, and then engagement, if everyone's doing the things that need to get done. They're going to be recorded under those 2 criteria. You're also receiving an organization grade. If you have any missing assignments, your organization grade will be a 1. I put up a message last week that said to make sure that everything was turned in. You should be doing this on a weekly basis. If you have any missing videos, then that would deduct all the way to a 1 on your organization grade. If you have 2 to 3 things that were turned in late, by this is videos, then, 3 or more, then it's a 2. If you have 2 or 1 late things, then it's a 3. If you have nothing that was late, you receive a 4. You can go through. I don't include the ones for the rubric, but things like this, if I saw this on there, if you see that on there for anything that was done this semester, then you will be receiving a 1. So do make sure that you're going back through Google Classroom, making sure none of these things are missing, and you're watching those videos. How it works for you receiving feedback, like I said before, if you turn it in a Google Doc, it's right on your Google Doc. If you turn it in on a Word document, you still get feedback the same way. You just have to do a few extra steps in order to be able to see that. So you go into turn in your rubric here. It'll give you a score out of 4. So this is going to be your learning habit scores. If I have any extra feedback, I would give it to you here. Otherwise, I say please see notes for feedback. If you click this, it'll show up, but you won't see the comments because this is just a preview of the document itself. You have to do one of 2 things. If you click this and press open in new window, it'll open up in a new window and let you see that. The second option is to right click this and open in new tab or open a new window. Either one of those would effectively get you to this page. Now, as you scroll through, what's going to happen is I highlighted text I was talking about. So it'll be in kind of a lightish yellow font or highlight, and I'll have a comment here. So as you go down, it'll give you the feedback. So follow that feedback back to add to your rubric, and you'll be good to go. One of the main things that I saw missing from all of these is the 10 resources. Okay, the way I grade it is through this criteria here. Whatever the bottom one is how I'm going to be looking at it. Do you have a unique problem? Is your statement very clear and concise? Do you have specific resources? In order to have a specific resource, you need to list the 10 resources here and give at least a 1-sentence summary of what you got from every single resource. If you don't do that, you're going to lose this point for this page. Okay, the final grading criteria is I'm grading per section. So you could look at the sections that are up in the classroom. You can go back to one of the original documents and look it up. So for example, these 3 questions have to be answered to standard for 1 point. Then you go down to this one. These need to be answered for 1 point. Okay, so go back to your design statements. Go back to analyzing your hypothesis. There were some errors in that, and especially if you're doing the inquiry, you need some sort of data, charts, pictures, graphs. Those need to be added on to your submission. If not, then you're not going to be getting the point for that section. Okay? Listing the materials, building a prototype. If you're doing the engineering one, I want to see pictures of that prototype in order for me to give you those full points. Okay? This is the part that you need to have data. This one. So in the engineering one, you're analyzing the data. In the inquiry one as well, explain to me the next steps or how it supports or refutes your hypothesis. Because in order for it to be a hypothesis or a design statement, it needs to be yes or no. That's the reason why you can't have directions from a booklet in this assignment. Okay? This part, what would you do in the future? Okay? If you had another chance to do this project, what other things would you add on? If you didn't have the limitations of what we only have here in Kinshasa, what would you be able to acquire? What would you be able to do to make this more in-depth, to make it higher thinking? Did this lead you to another question? Would you then do something else to analyze another question? That's what we're looking for here. Make sure you follow these bottom steps. Okay? Changes to prototype, evaluate prototype or model, detailed description. These are all things I'm looking for. If you don't have these criteria, then you don't get the point. Then more for the next step design. For this one, almost everybody got it. The only thing I'm really looking for here that wasn't done by some people is I want step-by-step what each person does. This will be your group contribution point. If you put in more effort than other people, you will be having this part done. And in this part, if you're not putting the effort in, and I go back and I look through the other parts that you didn't contribute to, then that's where the point deductions will begin per person. So it's up to you to make sure that every person here is held accountable for what they've accomplished so far within the rubric. Okay? If you need help with this, come see me during a tutorial. If you need a computer, you need to come to me before tutorial happens. You can't come to me when tutorial starting and say, can you go rent a computer? I'm going to say no, because I can't. I need to have that information beforehand. You need to be put on top of this, because a lot of people don't have full points, or they had parts in here, I don't understand this question, and I never saw those students once during a tutorial and once before school or after school. This then puts that responsibility on you. I am here and I am available to help you out, but if you're not utilizing those times where I'm available to help you, it doesn't lie on me. Then that starts to lie on you as the student. I'm not going to chase after you after school if you have a question about something. I have a time that I'm in a given area. You need to make sure that you bring yourself to me during that time. Okay? So if you have any other questions, come see me during a tutorial. If you need a computer, tell me the day before at least. Or if you need a time after school just to sit down with me, tell me beforehand. I'll say to your group, okay, I'll be here at 3:10, and then I'll be able to get you computers. Like, make sure that you are here at that given time, because sometimes I may be making copies or I may be doing something else after school. And I will eventually be there, and some of you have to wait. Some of you open the door, I'm not there, and then close the door and leave. If you want to meet with me, sometimes you may have to wait there for at least a minute, because I'll be either walking in and out of my room. I could be getting water. I could be in the back room talking to the other science teachers about lessons, etc. So do make sure that if you are coming after school, you are staying for that time, because if my door is not locked, it means I have not left yet. So I will still be there. You're going to have to wait in the room for me. Any other questions, comments, and concerns? Just let me know in class. Otherwise, your comments are all on here. Make sure that you fill those out. If you do, you should be good to go. There were a few students that already got the go-ahead. You have a 7. Those students don't need to add anything else to their rubric. You're done. You're done, and then you can go ahead and just resubmit that, and I'll give you the 7 when I'm doing those. These are due the last day of school before break, the 23rd. So you have 1, 2, 3 weeks to add that feedback. I'll be grading it the first week of break. On that Monday, I'll have computer access, and on that Friday, I'll have computer access. So it'll be one of these days, and that will be your final rubric score. So that'll be your score for your rubric. The next score will be based off what you have for your presentation. So you're going to need to create a science fair type presentation of what you learned from your rubrics. You're going to have to glue charts onto it. You're going to have to glue data. You're going to have to mark about what you learned, have your hypothesis, have some pictures. If you had built something, you need to bring what you built. If you had a experiment, you can bring some of the tools that you used. If you grew a plant, you can bring the plant. If you used routers, you can bring those routers with you. If you want to look something up, just do science fair ideas. You should be able to see kind of how other people set up their science fair projects. So things like this you can make out of cardboard. You can get a box and unfold it and stand it up like that. If you're going to be somewhere over break where you're able to get something like this that you can use, that's totally fine. But this will be kind of my expectation of what yours looks like. I'll create the rubric for that before you leave, so that way you have it if you want to gather some materials or items while you are on break. So that is how the feedback works. That is how the next steps. If you have any more questions, come see me during a tutorial. If you are there during a tutorial and you're just talking and you're not asking me questions, then I'm not going to, then if you come up to me and say, I was there and I didn't get any help, that's, and again, going to be a conversation that we have. So have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and see you all on Monday.